Noir Plasma Chrome Bleed. Unlocking knowledge, inspiring innovation, empowering curious minds.
This website makes learning so easy. I found all my resources here.
Like what you share.
Welcome back to another explainer. Today we're diving into one of the absolute most incredible, highly coordinated deconstruction plans on the entire planet. I'm talking about the human digestive system. You know, every single time we eat, our bodies pull off this literal marvel of mechanical and chemical engineering. It's this intricate blueprint of specialized organs, all working in perfect, seamless harmony to extract energy and nutrients from whatever we just ate.
But hey, before we actually trace the path of our food, let me pose a quick question to you. Do you know how long your digestive tract actually is? Like, if you were to literally stretch out this continuous tube inside your body from end to end, what do you think the length would be? Go ahead, take a guess.
Did you guess? Well, the answer is 9, specifically 9 meters or roughly 30 feet long. That's the length of the whole human GI tract when measured at autopsy. Now, sure, it's considerably shorter in a living body because the intestines, which are these tubes of smooth muscle tissue, maintain this constant muscle tone in a kind of halfway tense state. That allows them to relax in different areas for local distension and movement. But just think about that for a second. You have 30 feet of biological machinery just neatly packed inside your abdomen. No way, right? It truly gives you a moment of awe about this massive biological system we're carrying around.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda for this explainer. First, we'll cover the human digestive system overall, then the 3 phases of digestion. From there, we'll move into the upper gastrointestinal tract, head inside the stomach, explore the lower gastrointestinal tract, and finally wrap up with diseases and clinical significance.
All right, Section 1, the human digestive system. So our digestive machinery is basically divided into 2 main components. On one side, we have the gastrointestinal tract, or GI tract. This is that continuous 9-meter passageway we just talked about, leading straight from the mouth all the way down to the anus. The food actually passes directly through this tube. But on the other side, we have the accessory organs of digestion. These include your tongue, salivary glands, pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. Now, food doesn't pass through these, but they are absolutely crucial. Why? Because they supply all the necessary digestive chemicals, enzymes, and mechanical assistance we need to actually break down what we eat.
Moving on to Section 2, 3 phases of digestion. You see, digestion doesn't just happen all at once. It's this meticulously timed factory process divided into 3 distinct stages. Step 1 is the cephalic phase. And this is wild. Digestion actually begins in your brain before food even enters your mouth. Just the mere sight and smell of food triggers secretions from your gastric glands. Then, step 2 is the gastric phase. This takes place in the stomach, where food is heavily churned and broken down. And finally, step 3 is the intestinal phase, where that partially digested food mixes with pancreatic enzymes in the small intestine to complete the whole digestion process.
Okay, let's step into the intake room. Section 3, upper gastrointestinal tract. The upper GI tract basically consists of the mouth, the pharynx, and the esophagus. Notice how the esophagus acts as this 25-centimeter fibromuscular transit tube, traveling right behind your trachea and heart. And it's so smart. When you swallow, this clever little flap called the epiglottis actually tilts backward just to prevent food from going down your larynx and ending up in your lungs. From there, peristaltic contractions push the food down into the stomach and eventually into the duodenum. Interestingly enough, clinicians actually use a very specific landmark called the suspensory muscle of the duodenum to mark the exact border between the upper and lower GI tract.
Now, as we move through this intake room, our food transforms into what's called a bolus. So what is a bolus? It's basically a small, rounded mass of chewed food mixed with saliva. While it's in your mouth, chewing mixes the food with that saliva, which contains some really vital digestive enzymes like amylase and lingual lipase. This essentially readies our raw material to be safely swallowed down the esophagus.
Next stop, Section 4, inside the stomach.
Let's zoom in on the stomach, which is basically the central acid vat of our digestive processing plant. It features a really intense chemical microenvironment. First up, we've got hydrochloric acid, which kills off incoming bacteria and creates a highly acidic environment with a pH of around 2. If you've ever experienced heartburn, yeah, you are intimately familiar with the sheer power of this acid. Then we have pepsin. This is an enzyme that digests proteins. It's actually secreted by gastric chief cells as this inactive precursor called pepsinogen, and then the acid activates it. Finally, we have mucus. Because these chemicals are so incredibly corrosive, countless gastric glands secrete this thick, slimy layer of mucus, and its job? To protect the stomach wall from literally digesting itself.
Inside this churning acid vat, our food undergoes its second major transformation. That bolus we talked about earlier? It gets rigorously churned and mixed with these powerful gastric juices until it becomes something completely new, called chyme. This partially digested, kind of liquid-like mixture is exactly what slowly passes through the pyloric sphincter at the bottom of the stomach, totally ready for the next phase.
Which brings us to our extraction plant. Section 5, lower gastrointestinal tract.
The lower GI tract really handles the heavy lifting when it comes to chemical digestion and nutrient absorption. It kicks off with the rest of the small intestine, specifically the jejunum and the ileum. Following that, we hit the large intestine, which is made up of the cecum and the various colons, ascending, transverse, descending, and sigmoid. Now, the large intestine's main job is to absorb water and electrolytes, and then it simply stores the remaining waste matter in the rectum until it's expelled through the anus.
Right here in the extraction plant, we hit our final food transformation definition. When that chyme is fully broken down in the small intestine, the extracted nutrients are absorbed as this milky fluid called chyle. This chyle gets absorbed directly into the lymphatic system. So at this point, the raw materials of that food you ate have officially been harnessed and put to work to fuel your body.
And finally, Section 6, diseases and clinical significance.
Now, because this is such a massive and complex system, GI issues are, unfortunately, incredibly common. Take gastroenteritis, for example, which is an inflammation of the stomach and small intestine, often caused by bacterial infections. It's actually the most common disease of the GI tract. We also see conditions like appendicitis, which is inflammation of the appendix and, can literally be fatal if it goes untreated. Then there are chronic inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, which affects the bowel walls. And of course, functional disorders like irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, which I'm sure many of you watching might have some personal experience with.
And this brilliantly illustrates the clinical realities of our gut. Let's talk about Helicobacter pylori. This is a spiral, gram-negative bacterium that has actually figured out how to survive the incredibly harsh acidic microenvironment of the human stomach. And what's truly staggering? It infects over 50% of the global population. It colonizes the stomach lining, which triggers a robust immune response that leads to inflammation, gastritis, and really painful peptic ulcers. It's honestly a perfect example of a pathogen adapting to our unique anatomical blueprint. We also have to look at some of the more sobering quantitative data regarding gastrointestinal cancers. According to 2023 estimates in the United States, cancers of the digestive system are a major health concern. Just to put that into perspective, in 2023, colon and rectum cancers accounted for roughly 52,550 deaths. For the pancreas, it was 50,550, and the liver and intrahepatic bile duct accounted for 29,380. Now, research from our sources notes that one possible factor in the etiology of some of these gastrointestinal cancers is actually excessive exposure of the digestive organs to abnormally high levels of bile acids, which have been implicated as important carcinogens. So, what does this all mean for us? We've covered a lot of ground today, tracking a 9-meter journey all the way from the mouth to the end of the lower GI tract. As you go about your day and sit down for your next meal, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. How do your daily dietary choices interact with this intricate 9-meter factory? What you eat directly impacts that chemical acid vat, your gut microbiome, and the delicate lining of those massive intestines. Understanding this incredible anatomical roadmap is really the very first step in empowering yourself to take better care of it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.
Like
This website makes learning so easy. I found all my resources here.
Noir plasma chrome bleed. Unlocking knowledge, inspiring innovation, empowering curious mind.